Luna slid into the front passenger seat of Ethan's car, the door thudding shut behind her like a heavy weight settling into her chest. The custodian's words echoed in her mind, haunting reminders of the abrupt dismissal she had just faced. "I guess you are ready for answers," the custodian had said. "That's why we are here," she had said, filled with hope, but the custodian's response had cut deeper than she expected. "You two should go home. You can talk to Trinity later." It infuriated her. Trinity was Luna's friend, not hers. Sure, they had only been hanging out for a week, but that shouldn't matter. Trinity and the custodian shared a connection that left Luna feeling like an outsider looking in. Why was she always left on the sidelines? "Put your seatbelt on," Ethan said, jolting her from her spiraling thoughts. Luna complied, pulling the seatbelt over her chest and lap, the snugness a small comfort against the turmoil in her mind. The scene replayed in her thoughts like an endless loop. The memory of the custodian, her strange aura, and the flicker of magic felt like a dream slipping away. As Ethan drove out of the parking lot and onto the road, he rubbed the back of his head, where a sizable lump was forming. "Who knocked me over?" he asked, scratching his head in confusion. Luna had to think fast. "Don't you remember? You took that last step wrong and fell." "No one pushed you," she replied, quirking her face as if the question itself was absurd. The last thing she wanted was to get pulled into another argument about her obsession. "I didn't see much, but I'm guessing that had to do with magic and witches?" He mused, his curiosity ignited despite himself. She rolled her eyes, irritation bubbling beneath the surface. "Just drop it." "I know you think I'm stupid for my beliefs," she retorted, her voice taut, the effort to not be pulled into another debate forgotten. "Actually, it's pretty cool," Ethan said, the words tumbling out before he could stop them.
He didn't even know why he said it.
The words formed as if they came from another intelligence. "Don't patronize me. It's okay that you don't think I'm cool enough or normal enough to be your sister. I'm used to it." Luna snapped, her head falling against the cool window, watching the world blur past. Suddenly, a strange voice broke through the silence, echoing from every direction of Ethan's psyche. "Hello, Ethan." Ethan jerked his head around, the suddenness of the sound sending a chill down his spine. Had he really heard something? He strained to listen, his heart racing in rhythm with the pounding of the car's engine. The night was still, save for the whisper of wind against the glass, and yet a heavy unease settled over him. "Did you say something?" He directed the question to Luna, panic threading through his tone. "No, are you okay?" she replied, her brow knitted in concern. "I just thought I heard something," he answered, bewilderment washing over his features. His hands tightened around the steering wheel as he drove, the houses passing by in a blur of shadows. As the silence enveloped them once more, Ethan tried to shake off the sensation of being watched, but the feeling lingered like a shadow at the edge of his vision. Then he heard it again, more distinctly this time, echoing in the depths of his mind.
"Ethan."
The voice was low and ominous, curling around his name like smoke, and he felt an involuntary shiver creep up his spine. He slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching as the car came to a sudden halt. Luna was thrown forward, her seatbelt snapping tight around her, preventing her from hitting the dashboard. "Who said that?" Ethan yelled, his voice cracking as he turned his head to scan the back seat. "What the hell, Ethan?" Luna exclaimed, her voice sharp with surprise. "You're the only one who can hear me. Get it together." The voice commanded, its tone resolute and chilling. It felt both familiar and alien, a ripple in the fabric of reality that tugged at the edges of his sanity. Ethan's heart raced as he turned to Luna, desperation and confusion etched on his face. "What have you done to me?" The words fell from his lips before he could censor them, the fear clawing at his insides. Luna met his gaze, her own eyes wide with fear. "Nothing." The voice reverberated in Ethan's mind, an urgent command that sent shivers down his spine. "Apologize to her." It boomed with an authority that felt impossible to resist. "Drive home. Don't draw attention to yourself." The words were heavy, saturating his thoughts with a profound compulsion he couldn't explain. It was as if a part of him had been overtaken, leaving him with an unsettling sense of dread. "I'm sorry, Luna," he said, the words spilling out before he could fully grasp their weight. "I don't know what came over me. I guess I took a good knock to the head. I'm fine now." Ethan shifted the car into gear. The engines rumbled, drowning out the turmoil inside his head, but the unease lingered like a shadow at the edge of his consciousness. Beside him, Luna remained silent, her thoughts swirling in a haze of confusion and recognition. A strange familiarity settled over her, stitching together the fragments of the night's events. As she glanced out the window, the streetlights flickered past like echoes of some long-forgotten memory. This moment with her brother, the inexplicable chaos they had just experienced, seemed eerily connected to something she couldn't quite place. She had delved into countless texts on the occult, losing herself in the mysteries of the supernatural, and now she couldn't shake the feeling that she had read something strikingly similar to this before. What was happening felt like a page torn from one of those books, haunting, uncanny, and deeply unsettling. Trinity and the custodian stood in silence as they watched Luna and her brother disappear through the exit doors of the school. The air felt thick, weighed down by unsaid words and unspoken tension. Trinity's gaze lingered on the door, her thoughts spiraling as she tried to make sense of what was happening. She trusted Luna, of course she did. But there was something about this moment, about being left alone with the custodian, that unsettled her in a way she couldn't quite understand. "Follow me." The custodian's voice broke the silence, firm and direct. "We'll find a comfortable place to talk." Trinity hesitated for a moment, but then nodded and fell in step behind her. The quiet click of their footsteps echoed down the empty hallway, but all Trinity could hear was the pounding of her own thoughts. She glanced at the woman in front of her, the custodian who had kept her distance for so long, suddenly at the center of a mystery Trinity hadn't even known she was chasing. Why had she told Luna and Ethan to leave? The question gnawed at her mind. Being alone with this woman, the faceless figure from her dreams, felt wrong, yet somehow inevitable. For weeks now, fragments of dreams, strange visions, and feelings she couldn't explain had haunted her. Was this it? Were the answers she sought just within reach? The custodian led her through the dimly lit corridors, past dark classrooms that seemed to hold their breath as they passed. The deeper they walked into the quiet of the school, the more familiar it all felt. Not in a way Trinity could put her finger on, but like the tug of a memory just out of reach, something she knew but couldn't remember. Finally, they reached the teacher's lounge. The custodian opened the door and gestured for Trinity to enter. For a moment, Trinity hesitated, but then she stepped inside. The room was nothing like she had imagined. It was warm, cozy even, with soft chairs and a large sofa arranged around a wooden coffee table. For a brief moment, Trinity felt a flash of jealousy. How is this fair? The teachers had this space, while the students were stuck with hard plastic chairs in the cafeteria. She quickly shook the thought away. Now's not the time for that. She had bigger concerns. The custodian crossed the room, heading for a small refrigerator tucked at the end of a counter. She pulled out 2 bottles of water and handed one to Trinity without a word. "Let's sit," she said, motioning to the seating area. Trinity took the water but didn't open it. She lowered herself into one of the black armchairs, her fingers absently twisting the bottle's cap. The custodian, meanwhile, took a seat on the sofa, her posture relaxed, yet her eyes were focused intently on Trinity, like she'd been waiting for this moment for a long time. The silence between them was heavy, expectant. "Trinity, you don't know how long I've waited to talk to you," the custodian said finally, her voice low, but the weight of her words filled the room. Trinity blinked, trying to process what she had just heard. Waited? She wanted to ask for how long, but her thoughts were too jumbled, too chaotic. Only one question fought its way to the surface. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice quieter than she intended, barely above a whisper. The custodian leaned forward slightly, her expression softening. "I'm family, Trinity," she said, her voice tender but serious. "I'm your aunt. My name is Sophia." The words hit Trinity like a wave, knocking the air from her lungs. "Family? Aunt?" She shook her head, her heart thudding painfully in her chest. "No, that's not possible," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "My mother is an only child and my dad, he only has a brother." Sophia's gaze remained steady, her voice soft but insistent. "Think, Trinity. You know you were adopted." Trinity's breath caught in her throat. Of course she knew, her parents had told her that much. But this? Her adoptive mother had once mentioned another woman who had been in the delivery room with Salitha. She had said the two women seemed to share a bond like they could have been sisters, but nothing more had been said about it. Trinity hadn't thought much of it at the time, hadn't even considered the possibility of more biological family. Why didn't I question it? The words rang in Trinity's ears, sharp and disorienting. She struggled to wrap her mind around the idea. "Salitha," she whispered, barely audible. The name slipped from her lips. Sophia smiled gently, nodding. "Yes, Salitha." Trinity blinked, her thoughts flashing back to the photo her adoptive parents had shown her, the only image she had of her biological mother. She had never given it much thought beyond the basics. Her biological mother had died, and her adoptive parents had raised her with love and care. But now, staring at Sophia, the resemblance was undeniable. The same high cheekbones, the same piercing eyes. Sophia looked older, more worn by life, but the familial connection was suddenly, glaringly clear. "How did I not see it? They showed me her photo once," Trinity said, shaking her head. "I didn't see the resemblance between you and her then. How could I have missed it?" Sophia's eyes softened with understanding. "It wasn't your fault, Trinity. You couldn't have known. It was the spell." Trinity's naivety showing through. "Spell?" she repeated. "What spell?" Sophia leaned forward, her voice soft but firm. "Your mother was sick, Trinity. She knew that bringing you into the world would mean her death." Trinity felt her heart race. She had heard this before. "I know," she said, her voice trembling. "My adoptive mother told me. She said Salitha showed up out of nowhere, told them she had cancer, that she wouldn't survive after I was born. They told me the whole story." Sophia's smile was gentle but knowing, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. "Oh, my dear Trinity," she said softly. "Not the whole story." Luna rested her head against the cool glass of the car window, the chill contrasting sharply with the tumult of emotions swirling inside her. 1,000 questions raced through her mind, but one loomed larger than the rest. What had just happened to her brother? She stole a glance at Ethan, who sat rigidly in the driver's seat, his knuckles white as he gripped the steering wheel. He stared straight ahead, lost in a silence that felt heavy and foreboding. As the car navigated the familiar streets, each turn brought them closer to home, but the sanctuary of their house felt more like a prison. When the vehicle finally came to a halt in the driveway, Ethan exited without a word, the air around him thick with unspoken thoughts. Luna hesitated for a moment before following him inside, her heart pounding with concern. "Are you sure you're okay?" she asked softly, hoping to pierce the wall he had built around himself. Ethan turned to face her, a flicker of irritation crossing his features. "I'm fine. Why would you ask me that?" His tone was defensive, but Luna could sense the cracks beneath his bravado. She studied his face, searching for clues in his unusual demeanor. "You almost threw me through the window a minute ago. That was different." The weight of the evening pressed down on her, a tapestry of strangeness woven together by fear and confusion. "Sorry about that," he muttered, his voice almost dismissive, as if the apology were a mere formality. "I'm tired. I'm going to go lie down." With that, he shrugged off his prized letterman's jacket, letting it fall to the floor as if it were a burden he could no longer bear. He trudged up the stairs, each step echoing with a sense of finality. Luna watched him go, her heart heavy with concern. She picked up the jacket, its fabric still warm from his body, and folded it with care. Placing it over the banister, she couldn't shake the worry gnawing at her insides. Just hours earlier, she had wished for a moment's peace from Ethan's relentless teasing about her interests, but now that she felt the rift between them widening, all she could think about was his well-being. Peering up the stairs, she felt a pang of anxiety. The brother she had always known seemed distant, transformed by something dark and inexplicable. Would he be okay? Would he even let her help him if he needed it? Ethan perched on the edge of his bed, the weight of his thoughts pressing down like a heavy fog. Where had that voice come from? Was this all a side effect of the bump on his head? He tentatively reached up to feel the sore lump, his fingers brushing against the skin. It throbbed, a dull reminder of past collisions. He was no stranger to pain. As a quarterback, he had endured his share of hard hits, sometimes so fierce they left him momentarily dazed and disoriented. "Ethan, let's talk for a minute." The voice echoed again, a distinct sound that felt different from his own thoughts. It wrapped around him, insistent and urgent. "I'm not going crazy," he muttered silently, trying to dispel the mounting unease. "You are not," the voice replied, cool and composed. The hairs on the back of Ethan's neck prickled. His heart quickened its pace as he strained to find an answer for this bizarre intrusion. "It's just the bump on my head. It has to be." "Stop it."
Quit talking to me.
"I'm not going crazy," he thought fiercely, hoping the commanding tone in his mind would sever the connection. "Why do you think you're going crazy?" The voice inquired, more inquisitive than threatening, as if genuinely curious about Ethan's state of mind. Ethan swallowed hard, fists clenching on the bedsheets. "Because I'm talking to myself," he thought, a sharp burst of anxiety rising. "And now I'm answering myself." "No," the voice countered smoothly, as if guiding him to a revelation.
"You're talking to me."
The simplicity of the statement sent a chill down Ethan's spine. There was something disturbingly logical about it. "Then who are you?" The question formed before he could stop himself. "My name is Eadric," the voice revealed. It wasn't boastful. It wasn't sinister. It was simply there, occupying the space between Ethan's thoughts as if it had always belonged. "Eadric?" Ethan echoed internally, doubt and curiosity threading through the haze in his mind. "Where did you come from?" "The tomb that your sister and her friend opened," Eadric said, a touch of derision in his voice, as if it had all been too easy. The words hung heavy, unsettling. A flicker of memory resurfaced. The vault, the strange magic, the undeniable pull of something ancient and dangerous. "Possessed. Have you possessed me?" "Not yet," Eadric admitted, almost casually. "You have a wall up that I haven't been able to break down yet. But I will." The certainty of that promise chilled Ethan to his core. He could almost feel the pressure Eadric spoke of, a constant, subtle force pressing against him, trying to worm its way in. "A wall?" "Yes," Eadric murmured thoughtfully. "Your confidence. Your sense of self. It shields you for now, but even the strongest walls fall eventually." Ethan's heart thudded. "What do you want?" There was a pause, long enough for Ethan to feel the answer before it came. "Retribution," Eadric said at last, his voice rippling with an old, festering rage. "Revenge." A spike of pain shot through Ethan's skull as Eadric's voice grew louder. "Edara." The name slammed into his consciousness like a battering ram, knocking the breath from his lungs. A fiery hatred, foreign and overwhelming, coursed through his veins. He squeezed his eyes shut against the onslaught, fighting to keep his head above the torrent.
"Who is Edara?"
Ethan managed, cautious now, bracing himself for another surge of fury. "Your sister's friend," Eadric spat, venom coating every syllable. "The one named after 3. Trinity," Ethan thought, the name reverberating in his mind like a bell struck too hard. He could feel it now, the presence of Eadric pulsing inside him, lurking, waiting. And for the first time, he believed it wasn't just in his head. Trinity's stare was sharp, her thoughts spinning out of control. "What don't I know?" she asked, her voice trembling. Sophia's expression softened, her eyes holding a depth of knowledge. "You were born in Edara. That's your family name. You come from a long line of witches, my dear." The name Edara hit her like a tidal wave. It was the same name she and Luna had uncovered just hours ago, buried in the old texts. Now, she was being told that she wasn't just connected to this legacy, she was the legacy. The ancient text wasn't a story from long ago, it was still being written, with her bloodline at the center. There's more, Sophia continued. A prophecy. A girl will be born and named for 3. Trinity's breath caught in her throat. The bottle of water slipped from her hands, hitting the floor with a splash. Her body moved on autopilot, bending to pick it up. 3 sister witches lived and died. She whispered under her breath, the words haunting her. Sophia watched her closely. So, you've read the prophecy? It wasn't a question, not really. It was a confirmation of what Sophia had known would come to pass. Trinity grabbed a handful of paper towels and began cleaning up the spill, though her mind was far from the small mess.
Yeah, sort of. I dreamed about it.
And about you too, I think. Trinity's voice grew quieter as she recounted her dream. The faceless custodian in the hallway, the children chanting the prophecy on the playground, and the eerie battle between the 3 witches. She laid it all out, her words like pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. The man tied to the stake, the witches in their final moments, the prophecy. They all became real as she spoke. When you were born, Sophia began, her tone shifting to one of sadness, your mother and I cast a binding spell to suppress your power. She wanted you to have a normal childhood. It was important to her that you grow up without the burden of this knowledge, without the weight of magic. The spell held for years, but these last few weeks, it started to break down. Your power pushed against it for too long. Now, it's too strong for any spell to contain. Trinity nodded slowly, the truth settling over her like a heavy blanket. She felt her power more acutely now, alive beneath her skin, stirring with each revelation. What about Luna? She asked, her voice quieter now. I met her last week, or at least I thought I did. But she told me we've been in school together for years. How could I not have noticed her? Sophia gave a knowing nod. That was me. I cast a spell to keep you from seeing her, to protect both of you. Luna is what we call a mundane witch. Trinity frowned, confused. What's a mundane witch? Sophia smiled faintly, leaning back in her chair. A mundane witch is someone who practices witchcraft, but doesn't have any inherent magical powers. They learn the craft, study spells and rituals, but they aren't born with the ability to conjure or manipulate magic the way you can. Luna is one of them. Without powers of her own, she's a practitioner of magic, but the danger was in her curiosity. If she had uncovered who you were too soon, it could have drawn unwanted attention. I couldn't let that happen. Trinity's frown deepened. The idea of someone practicing magic without real power seemed strange, but at the same time, Luna's obsession with witchcraft made more sense now. So, she studies it but she can't do it? Like real magic. Sophia's eyes sparkled with amusement. Oh, she can do some things, spells, charms, but nothing too dangerous. True power comes from within, and Luna doesn't have that. You do. Trinity's heart thudded as Sophia's words settled in. The power inside her wasn't just something that happened to her, it was her. What kind of magic can I create? Sophia's chuckle broke through the tension. One step at a time. Now that you're aware of your power, it's going to surface quickly. If you don't learn to control it, things could get dangerous. Very dangerous. We will need to start your training as soon as possible. Trinity's mind was already racing. How about tomorrow? Is that soon enough? Sophia let out a deep, hearty laugh and rose from her chair. Yes, tomorrow will be just fine. She reached out, pulling Trinity into a warm hug. We'll start your training, and soon, you'll know exactly what you're capable of. As Sophia hugged her tightly, Trinity felt a deep calm wash over her. Her world had turned upside down, but for the first time, she felt prepared to face it.